Well, another question, Mark, that many people brought up, maybe not many, but people have brought up, is the wide receiver room. And Jeff Risdon, very reliable source. He went on Detroit Lions podcast, which they do great work. And he said this, which Michael Lucci's put out. Shout out to Michael, man. He's amazing. He tweeted out, the Lions have told at least one agent of a free agent wide receiver they're not in the market. I repeat, they're not in the market. Quote, you will not see other wide receivers brought in. Agents have asked. Detroit not interested in bringing in any receivers at this point. Jeff Risdon said that quote. Fellas, what's your what do you make of that?
Klotz, I'm gonna let you go. What do you think? Because you guys already know where I'm at with this.
Very timely.
I think at least that's probably the immediate thing. I think Brad Holmes hears all the noise, and he's always been a guy that's been pretty accountable both in press conferences and just with the roster and what's going on. And I think that they're right now focused on the defensive end room more than anything, as they should be. I still think there's a possibility that Brad Holmes is like, you know what? No, we could bring in a Denzel Mims type of player. Like, I still think they will bring in body during camp. But right now, I just don't think it's an immediate need compared defensive end and or tackle depth, because truly after the tackle position too, you have nobody. If you were to lose Amon-Ra St. Brown, knock on wood, for a game, I have trust that Khalif Raymond can go out there and get 4 catches for 60 yards. Donovan Peoples-Jones can go out there 2 catches for 20 yards, and you can find a way to fill up Amon-Ra stat production. But if Panay or Taylor Decker goes down, good God. If Aiden Hutchinson goes down for a game, good God. There's just nobody there. So I'm assuming they're looking at the defensive end spot.
Yeah, I know we've had this conversation. Yeah, this is a little shocking to say the least. And I want people to know this too. Like, I don't think the way I look at this wide receiver room, it's not that I think it's like you have to bring someone in. Like, it's not. I just think if there's an opportunity that approaches yourself where there's a player, a free agent out there, or a trade scenario to where, hey, you can upgrade some pieces on this in this locker room, I think that's like something you can take a look at, and you're like, okay. The only reason, like, if you do just look at this roster and this wide receiver room, last season there was 4,600 total yards of receiving on this Lions offense, which I think was like 3rd or 4th in the entire NFL. Like 4,600 is an insane amount. You return everyone in that 4,600 room besides one player, and that's Josh Reynolds at 600 yards. So you're returning essentially over 4,000 receiving yards from last season. So I do think there's a sense to where they do feel a little bit of trust and like comfort. I think when you take Josh Reynolds out and you're like, all right, we need J-Mo to step up. I think he does it. But then, okay, now we need the DPJ or the Antoine Green or whoever it is to kind of take that next step, or someone to just show out and give you another look in that room. I think that's where they feel a little comfortable. And you know, we're not in practice every day. We're not in Allen Park every day. We're not evaluating this team every day. I think they must have a feeling that one of these guys will take that step forward. Now, if they don't in training camp, I think those conversations with agents do change a little bit to where if people do reach out to them and they realize, you know, those back end guys aren't stepping up, okay, then we can have a conversation with a free agent or someone. That's where I think that's where like a day ago when I had the conversation with you, Jeff, and we got in that argument last Friday, I think like the terms that I'm using is, let's keep an eye out on this wide receiver room come training camp. Like, that battle is going to be important for this team, in my opinion.
Yeah, which I honestly don't hate that take. I think the big thing, and I mentioned this last week, defensive end, offensive line, and it's not like those are easy. I'm not trying to say like, oh, just go fix it, because offensive line depth, a lot of teams struggle with that. I mean, even the Lions, they have the best offensive line in the league, and we're still talking about offensive line depth. Like that should give you a little hint to what the rest of the league is dealing with. So it's not the end of the world. It is concerning. I mean, you mentioned it with Aiden Hutchinson. Yeah, like he's one of your best, if not your best player on defense. No, he is your best player. So yeah, if he goes down, yeah, you're going to be in a tough spot. But wide receiver, like any spot, I mean, you bring it up. I would say tight end. Like Sam Laporta goes down, yeah, you're worried. Not saying they have to add a tight end, but like if you lose one of your best players, you're gonna be worried like that. Yeah. So I understand. I just have more question marks on the other side of Aiden. And that's probably why I keep bringing up these different defensive ends that the Lions should target at the deadline, because like that's where my mind is at. I'm with you, Boone, and I know Lucas mentioned this too. Like I wouldn't be mad if they brought in another body in the wide receiver room. I'm fine with who they have currently. Like, and maybe that's still my belief in DPJ. But to your point, Boone, yeah, the battle they have, it's going to be interesting to watch. I mean, that's kind of what people should be watching, because every other position, like, is pretty much, I don't want to say set, because defensive line will be a battle too. But like offensive line, you know who's starting. Wide receiver, you know it's Ahmed Ra, and you know J-Mo should take that wide receiver 2 role. But after that, you're like, I wonder who's going to compete to be that third guy. So like, I think that's fair. You know,
I think it's like obvious you're going to need, like, someone's got to step up. Like, and we do think it's going to be Jameson Williams who's going to step up and have a big season. And then outside of him too, someone's going to have to take the J-Mo role from last year. Those 300 or 400 yards. So they're like, if J-Mo's replacing Josh Reynolds, all right, who's replacing J-Mo, and who's going to take the next and kind of fill that? You have to fill it in completely. So like, I do think I had the conversation and we put the reel out of talking about Khalif Raymond. I do think Khalif Raymond is a big piece to this offense, more than people actually give him credit for. Like, I think he's a massive piece of this offense, and he doesn't get talked about enough just because it's Khalif Raymond, and people look at him as kind of a wide receiver 4. But in games he makes big time plays. He consistently is getting 400 or 500 yards a year for you the last 2 or 3 years, and he's one of the most consistent players on your entire football team when it comes to kind of just going out there and working. So I do think that they're able to fill guys in. Again, it just comes down to, do you feel comfortable with the depth? Because last year, J-Mo was out at times. Amon-Ra was out for a game. You know, Josh Reynolds at times, potentially. Like, there's like guys who are going to be out. You are going to need some players to kind of fill in and fill a void throughout the year. Like, and I'm not talking about a guy going down for the season. I'm talking about there's going to be times where you need guys to step up throughout the year. Last year with Josh Reynolds, the back end guys were the Khalif Raymonds and guys who stepped up. Now those are the guys filling in those bigger roles. Now you need guys to fill in those roles to step up. And when those guys go down, do you see what I'm saying there? Like, it's like it's a little bit of a domino effect.
I think there's also a point too where Jared Goff probably is going to be throwing for 4,600 yards this year. He's probably going to be throwing for like 4,400 just because the defense is better. There's not much pressure on him to get down the field with the ball as much. I think they're going to be running the ball more. So production-wise, I understand what you're saying as far as the domino effect, but I also think production, it's not going to be the same as last year. I think offensively, they're going to be in a different type of situation given the defense is a lot better.